Friday morning, welcome along to OTBAM. Adrian Barry back in the hot seat after a few weeks off, and Eoin Shane alongside me. Eoin, good morning to you.
Good morning, good to have you back.
Really?
It's great to have you back.
Who's been deputising in my absence?
I actually can't remember. It's all been a blur. I've been too
McIntyre,
sad.
I'm sure, was in at some point or other.
Yeah, McIntyre.
Too sad, yeah.
McIntyre was in this day last week, I think, or the week before.
You've extended yourself too far there by saying you've been too sad. I mean, to say you missed me, I might have sort of understood that, and you know.
It's been a harrowing experience listening to Dave McIntyre talk about Love Island for 3.5 weeks.
Fair enough. He's a fan, is he?
Oh, a huge fan. He's actually watching it on delay.
Right.
So himself and his other half have recorded it, and they kind of fell a few weeks behind after they went on holidays, and instead of just resuming Love Island despite the fact that they got back 2 weeks ago, they've just gone back and watched all the old episodes and are now 2.5 weeks.
Doesn't strike me as the sort of thing that you'd need to necessarily need to do that with. It's kind of a bit like
only to the news.
I would have to say I have not watched a second of it, but it doesn't. From what I gather, it doesn't. It's a home and away neighbours type scenario that dip in, dip out. You know, things are not going to move along necessarily all that much.
Precisely, exactly. What did you get up to for your long hiatus?
I was away for a few weeks, and in my absence, the world of sport obviously continued to spin around.
It spun quite quickly, yeah.
England won the World Cup, unbelievable stuff.
They sure did.
Kerry football is in absolute rude health.
Yeah, it absolutely is.
And the FAI is a controversy-free zone.
Yeah, well,
it's just been a remarkable few weeks.
3 bullseyes there, Adrian. You've really been following it closely on your trip to Asia.
Yeah, no, that's where I was, all right, yeah. But no, good to be back.
Yeah.
Back in the OTBAM studio.
You've missed the sunshine, you've missed 30-degree heat, left, right and centre.
Yeah.
What was it like over there?
It was good, yeah. Typhoon threatened to wipe us all out at one point, but happily sort of passed on. There was a bit of a bread crisis, as there had been. Remember Typhoon, what was it called? The Irish typhoon earlier in the year?
Ophelia?
Ophelia.
No, Ophelia wasn't a bread shortage. It was
the snow, was it?
It was the snowstorm, which I can't remember.
Anyway, there was a bit of a bread shortage in Taipei, as it turned out.
In Taipei?
Yeah, people went there was long queues in the supermarket that I was in. I'm not going to pluralise that because who knows what was happening up the road. It was the beast from the east that time with the bread, wasn't it? So yeah, Storm Maria came into town, and it was a typhoon. And Taiwan is like this little island that sort of sits off between China and Japan, so obviously the thing that slows down a typhoon generally is land, and when there's not much of it, it tends to just mow over things. But it came in at 2 o'clock in the morning. There was a bit of sort of blustery noises outside,
presumably,
and that was it. Sort of passed on over,
and it didn't get intense at any point, did it? Or I would imagine, living through a typhoon between China and Japan is quite terrifying, no? You
do make it sound far more dramatic than it actually was. No, it came in about 2 o'clock in the morning, and it
was a near-death experience, basically.
Absolutely, yeah. I'm just happy to be alive.
Yeah, so we all are.
Yeah, and that's why I'm not watching Love Island, because I just value my existence way too much to waste my time watching that shit. But we've lots of good stuff coming your way over the next little while, so we're going to talk about that. And now we're going to talk hockey and lots of other good stuff too. But I did mention the FAI just now. Obviously, one of the main stories in relation to them, we'll get to that shortly. Here's what's coming up between now and around about 9 o'clock or thereabouts for you with myself and Eoin. We're going to talk to you about the back page and some of the front pages today, generally dominated by John Delaney and Conor McGregor. So we'll get to those in just a few minutes' time. The Irish hockey story is a pretty incredible, remarkable one that just keeps on going. They've already qualified for the World Cup quarterfinals with a game to spare, and forward Nikki Evans is going to join us on the line in a little bit to discuss all of that good stuff. They have England coming Sunday, so we'll discuss that with her. We're going to talk hurling as well, a big weekend. Obviously the hurling semi-finals are both on this weekend, so we're going to be joined in studio by Jamie Wall to look ahead to both of those tomorrow and on Sunday as well. The PFAI and the FAI are at war, and toxic relationship, as Pat Dolan described it in the Star, I think, this morning. So we'll get the latest steer and all that, including hearing from John Delaney very shortly. And Conor McGregor is vowing to, according to an exclusive in one of the newspapers today, I can't quite remember which one it was, is vowing to work with disadvantaged kids after he was handed 5 days of community service for his misdemeanour a few months back. It does strike me that maybe don't work with disadvantaged kids, Conor McGregor. I'd say, in terms of positive influences in their lives, they maybe could do with somebody else.
Yeah, I can't disagree with you wholly there. I'm trying to think what you could learn from Conor McGregor. I mean, there could be some sort of...
What not to do, maybe that might be one thing.
Yeah, what not to do, how to perform the words, you'll do nothing to the top of your capabilities.
I would say they'd be not too plussed.
Yeah, I would say so.
you know.
No,
McGregor racking up.
No spend the coinage though on those self-defence classes, I'd imagine. Like it would be rather unfortunate if McGregor actually started charging for the self-defence classes, and he was like, I do vow to help out disadvantaged people, but they'll have to pay me for it. That might be the next move there to kind of boost the profile a little bit. He's
got to take anger management classes, him and the other guy that was
Keane Cowley.
I mean, part of his game is to be an angry man.
True.
Like, is this the Samson's hair or the Achilles heel or whatever they...
Well, just because you're taking anger management classes doesn't mean you can't be angry. It's like, if you're managing your finances, it doesn't mean you can't be rich. It just means he's going to divide up his anger and utilise it at the proper times.
Compartmentalise it, is that...
Exactly. Yeah. It's okay to be angry, is
but
what
I'm presuming... see, I'm assuming that... like in class 1 of that anger management class, when they're sitting around having the conversation, it's okay to be angry is not part of that conversation. I'm sure we need to remove this element of your personality, like in all facets. Like they don't allow for professional combat sports people, I wouldn't think, generally.
Does Conor McGregor strike you as an angry person?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. I mean,
like, barring the fact that he threw a hand truck at a bus and injured people, like,
he strikes me as a very angry person. He's quite a aggressive, passive-aggressive type sort of character. I mean, yeah, he does.
Yeah,
pretty much everything he does.
Passive aggression is how I'd put it as well.
Yeah,
there's kind of an undertone of anger quite often.
Absolutely.
Except when he's throwing hand trucks, of course.
I mean, look, that's just the expression of his anger right there. Anyway, get your comments coming into us. Hashtag OTBAM. Leave your comments here on the YouTube channel, Facebook. Any of that good stuff. And I mean, if it's not libelous or sort of including over sort of profanity, we'll happily bring it to the rest of the viewers. So get your comments into us. We're going to hear right now from John Delaney, the chief exec of the FAI. There's been a bit of a standoff between themselves and the PFAI, obviously, over the last couple of days. It's turned into a bit of a he said, she said. Somebody's released a statement about how they should develop a fund, which seems to make a lot of sense, for the various clubs that have struggled to pay their players' wages over the last while. So the FAI say we should donate 150 grand to that fund, and the PFAI should do likewise. But the PFAI are saying, well, I mean, it's a great fund, we should go ahead and do that, just we're not going to contribute to it. So that was pretty much the topic matter when Nathan sat down with John Delaney yesterday.
Does it just need you to step in, even if it's a 1 hour meeting with the PFAI where everybody can clear the air and you can start again? Because this obviously isn't doing anybody any favours.
I think, Nathan, you'll be speaking to Fran a bit and you can go through every bit about what's gone on over the last week on an operation level. My view of strategy, and I've mentioned Drogheda.
So you don't intend on getting involved?
Well, I think there's somebody in Fran, Gavin, who's appointed to deal with those matters. No more than there's people here to deal with legal matters and finance matters and high performance matters. And I think when you interview Fran, he'll bring you through all of that.
Yeah, that's true, but I mean, I guess at a certain point, particularly given that this particular spat has become so public and high profile and relevant, given some of the happenings that have happened at some of the League of Ireland clubs over the last couple of days, it does need somebody at that level to come in and go, to be the adult in the conversation and go, you know, I know, Fran, Gavin, you said this thing about the PFAI and PFAI who were on OTBAM yesterday morning.
Yeah.
You've said some stuff about us, but look, we just need to find a resolution to this. It's the, in management speak, the adult-child dynamic that's at play there. And at some point it is going to need somebody to step in and do that, because, I mean, both of them having pops at each other, it's kind of like that Davy Fitzgerald thing. I'm not going to say anything about this, but I am going to tell you what for, very publicly. It does need somebody to step in and go, we need to sort this shit out.
Who is that person?
Well, I think John Delaney is probably certainly one of those people.
Has there not been a little bit of a denting of the pride from an FAI perspective at this point, that potentially somebody separate to the FAI and PFAI needs to step in? Because of course it's not going to be a PFAI person who steps in to be the mediator, because who's the power horse in all of this? It's the FAI calling the shots. And I don't know, is that really a neutral solution? Having
it doesn't necessarily need to be neutral, it just needs somebody to be an adult.
Yeah.
We're going to hear more from John Delaney and from Brian Gavin a little bit later in the show. Nathan was out at FAI HQ. They've got their AGM coming up this weekend. Lots of interesting stuff about debt clearance and all of that sort of good stuff. So we'll have more of that coming your way before we leave you just after 9 o'clock. But another piece of video we wanted to bring you this morning was the return of Alex Ferguson. So obviously he had emergency brain surgery a little earlier in the year and everybody was very concerned for his health. But he's back and he's been speaking to MUTV.
Hello. Just a quick message, first of all, to thank the medical staff at Macclesfield, Salford Royal and Alexandra Hospitals. Believe me, without those people who gave me such great care, I would not be sitting here today. So thank you from me and my family. Thank you very much. It's made me feel so humble, as all the messages I've had from all over the world, wishing me the best, and the good wishes do resonate very, very strongly with me. So thank you for that support you've given me. And lastly, I'll be back later in the season to watch the team. In the meantime, all the best to José and the players. Thank you very much.
Yeah, good to see Alex Ferguson back in approaching the whole of his health anyway, and referencing the start of the season as well. This is a guy who doesn't take his mind off the job, does he? He's eager to get back.
He's a fighter. He's a competitor. It's great to see him back. I think just roundly delighted everybody in the football community, and indeed anybody who's familiar with Alex Ferguson. I think that brought a smile to everybody's face yesterday to see him not only speaking so well, but also looking in fine health. So great to have you back.
The newspapers in just a couple of moments' time, but before all of that, rally driver Craig Breen is somebody who's been dipping in and out of the show over the last little while, bringing us some really good off-the-ball exclusives from the various rallies. He's in Finland at the minute. You can keep an eye on his progress right with us over the next while, but you might remember last month with a series of videos from him. He was at the Rally Sardinia, and you should check all of that good stuff out. Some really nice stuff for motorsport fans or non-motorsport fans over on youtube.com/offtheball. He's in Finland at the minute. Take a look.
Hi everybody, greetings from Finland. We've just started the rally tonight with a super special inside in the heart of Jyväskylä, so it's been a good day. I think we're 6th or 7th overall tonight after the first little super special, but more importantly with the shakedown today, and that went really well. We were second fastest and among the fastest crews for the whole shakedown, so we're happy with that. That gives us a more clear view of how the weekend should pan out if all things go well. So we're looking forward to getting stuck into the real rally tomorrow. 3 big days ahead of us. Finland is the most challenging rally of the year, the fastest rally of the year, known for its jumps and high-speed roads. So we're looking forward to it. A lot of Irish people here, which is great for the support. And can't wait to get the weekend started.
OTBAM.
Thanks to Screwfix.ie, championing the trade with a dedicated call centre.
Yeah, it's 8 o'clock on this Friday morning. That was Craig Breen there that you saw just a moment ago, and he's going to be back with us on Monday. Exclusive OTB content coming our listeners, viewers' way on Monday morning. He tends to do quite well at the Rally of Finland, so seems to suit him. It's a gravelly course, a lot of tight roadways and pathways and stuff like that, so it seems to suit his eye, if that's the correct expression for rallying.
Yeah, you do wonder, I'm not sure here, I'm speculating, are the Irish rally drivers much more suited to, say, the winter rallies, that when it's like the dry climbs or somewhere in Finland, right in the slap bang middle of July, it's like Craig Breen is like, I like this, but it's too easy because everybody else is...
They're like applying the golf sort of links.
Exactly. I think
you're stretching it, if I'm being honest.
But who knows? I'm not sure is the Rally of Finland more comparable to a parkland course or to a links course. I'm sure there's a rally expert out there who'll tell me.
Get the comment in if we've got any answer to that. I'm definitely interested to hear. Right, here's a look what's happening in the back pages today. We're going to start with the Irish Independent. Delaney, FAI debt will be gone by 2020. Right, Stan MacDonald here. As we mentioned a little bit earlier on, John Delaney is promising that he'll clear the Aviva Bank debt by 2020. This was something they'd said previously. It looked as if it wasn't necessarily going to happen. The debt at the end of 2017 stood at €38 million, and they're saying that it's improved now to a position of just under €30 million, and that if they wish, they're going to discussed this at the AGM over the weekend. He hasn't given the exact details of how they're going to do it, but they said they would be clear by 2020, and he's saying that if they wish to be, they will, which is quite an incredible amount of money when you think about it, to shift over the course of, let's say 2 years. Anybody who's got a mortgage will understand that that is a pretty phenomenal achievement to have done. And the only question that I'm left asking just around that is that, like, with that vast amount of money, the obviously interest payments will be unbelievably high. If you had an opportunity to clear it over the course of 2 years, that vast sum of money, I can't understand why you would not do that. So I'll be interested to see what happens. The AGM over the weekend in terms of the plans to wipe that out, obviously. They talk about, obviously, the short-term investment in various projects that they'll have and that sort of stuff, but you would think the opportunity to press pause on some things, clear your debt, and then double down on those things because you've still got those revenues coming in and no debt to service after that, must be a pretty attractive one, I would think.
I would, absolutely. They also... I'm not going to say it's a convenient excuse because it is real. The figures are there. It has been something that has hampered the FAI's ability to do projects that they would like to do or to invest in areas that they would like to invest in. So the sooner this debt gets cleared, the sooner that excuse can stop. And it is a legitimate excuse, as I've said, but the sooner money can be pumped elsewhere, because it is quite convenient for everybody to say, well, why isn't there certain money going into grassroots? Why isn't certain money going into the League of Ireland? And it's well, there's that big shiny stadium in Ballsbridge and that's not going to pay itself. So once that's out of the way, it's almost like Arsenal and the Emirates. It's no more excuses, buddies. It's time to actually step up and see where you actually want to invest.
Yeah, well, we'll see what happens with that over the weekend. Also, the Irish Independent dominated by that brilliant back page there. A delighted Catherine Mullen jumping for joy alongside the rest of her teammates. We might get another quick look at that from the Irish Independent there. The Irish women's hockey team beating India 1-0 yesterday, an early goal. I'm told that it was a wild deflection. I'm told that those sort of things can be at times pretty deliberate in hockey. So fair play to them. 2 wins from 2 and already through to the quarterfinals with a game to spare. So they can, I don't know, take it handy against England on Sunday evening. That's a thing you do or not. I don't know. We'll talk to Nikki about that in a little bit. And also Colm Keys writing about the interest in the Cork Limerick All-Ireland hurling semi-final continues to soar as potential crowd heads for 75,000.
Yeah.
That's an unbelievable number, isn't it, really, for a game on Sunday?
It goes to show when you get two superpowers of fans going toe-to-toe, over the last couple of years, the colour we've seen from the Cork fans, particularly when they won the Munster title last year, and the Limerick fans as well, have been two of the most stunning sights in Gaelic games. So it's great to see them going toe-to-toe in Croke Park. A huge crowd, both brilliant sets of fans. It's going to be some atmosphere inside there on Sunday. It's going to be a fantastic clash as well. We'll look ahead to it later on, but it's just contrasting styles, like the powerhouse of Cork, and then the beautiful blend that Limerick have as well. They're certainly one of the most exciting teams to watch at the moment. I think the Jackie Tyrrell in the Irish Times, which you'll get to in a moment, is tipping Limerick, but everybody who is tipping Limerick is giving the caveat that they're up against Cork, and Limerick have been in this position before against Clare, for example, 2013, I think. So yeah, of course, 2013. So it's going to be another tricky one for them in terms of actually stepping up to the Croke Park occasion. Yeah, okay. The hockey also dominates the front page of the Irish Examiner this morning. Green shoots. Reflections here on that win, and pretty emotional and delighted Irish team yesterday in London. Irish women make World Cup history there. Ruby Walsh, Paul Rouse, GAA can no longer cling blindly to the rules. This is obviously in relation to the potential opening of Páirc Uí Chaoimh for the Liam Miller testimonial, and it looks as if this may get done tomorrow by all accounts. It does beg the question as to if and seemingly when it gets done tomorrow. It does make a bit of a lie out of the initial GAA statement that they'd consulted their lawyers and this just couldn't be done, and that was it, and a full stop. So I think everybody just hopes that sense prevails and it does get opened up tomorrow. So I'm sure we'll see more of that. Brendan Cummins as well, writing that he's concerns about Cork's Anthony Nash. He's going mad at everybody. Yeah, I have the line written down here on the exact Anthony Nash line. He concedes a goal and he's hopping around inside the goals, going mad at everybody. He's banging the hurley off the ground. I just think that can ripple up the pitch, is what he says. So Anthony Nash's excitement and lack of composure, I think is what he's trying to say, can often ripple through the team. And he compares it to Eoin Murphy, who's he concedes a goal and he's like, meh. Time to get ready for the next book out. Anthony
Nash has never struck me as a player with a lack of composure, I have to say, and there's also a positive benefit to that going mad stuff. That's this nonsense shouldn't happen.
And that's the Cork way, isn't it? That's their identity, isn't it? Going mad at things.
Is that it?
Like going apeshit. Cork go apeshit better than everybody else.
I've noticed, by the way, we don't have a Kerry jersey up here, do we?
It's an old one. It's a noticeably old one. It's not the classy Paul Galvin jersey, so we'll need to sort that out very soon. Sorted.
And a Westmeath jersey up there somewhere too. The Irish Times this morning is the away day crucial as Dundalk draw blank. This is following Dundalk's Europa League 0-0 draw with Larnaca last night. Came very close to opening scoring early on, but 0-0 it wrapped up. Also Emmett Malone on FAI versus PFAI. Players Union saying that the FAI is trying to cripple it, and the FAI will clear the stadium debt by 2020, writes Emmett on the other side of the newspaper there. The Times Ireland edition Jared Payne, the new Ulster defence coach, saying that he's still unable to exercise intensely. This is obviously following his retirement. The head knock that forced that as well. Kieran O'Hallig writes there, I don't see that story anywhere else either. Dundalk held, and Delaney FAI will be debt-free by 2020, writes Gary Doyle. That's the Times Ireland edition. I think the next paper we have is the Irish News. You can see there Gallagher's year could be over.
It's a big blow. Yeah. That is a big blow. I haven't actually seen that written anywhere else. Owen Baugh Gallagher, seems that he's out, he's done.
One of the bright young prospects of that Donegal team, obviously. So that's the Irish News this morning. And finally for me for the minute is the Racing Post this morning. Geraint Thomas looks strong with time running out for rivals. One of the good things about the Tour de France, Owen, I mean, there are a lot of
great things,
amazing things, phenomenal, tremendous things, as our good friend Donald Trump might say, is the quality photographs that you tend to get from it. They're generally pretty exceptional.
Sensational.
There's some excellent ones, including, I think, one of the newspapers you have, The Guardian, upcoming. I mean, it's probably a great sport for a stills photographer. It's an awful sport for spectators.
Well, you say that.
I do.
But it's not true.
No,
you say that and it's not true.
It's absolutely true. Having slummed it as a spectator, and I know that your only experience was involved helicopters and sort of cars driven by Stephen
Where
Roach.
did you watch it? When it came here in 98?
No, South of France, about 3 or 4 years ago.
And what section of the stage was that? Was it on the flat?
It was at the top of a fairly, not a massive incline, but it was at the top. You need to be on an incline, on a hill essentially of some sort, because an upward hill, because otherwise you're, whatever waste of time it is, it's a total waste of time otherwise.
Yeah, you'd be pretty stupid to stand on the flat.
It's difficult to pick out riders. It's like it's gone in a flash. It's, you know. Anyway, I know. Not everybody has the experience that you have, being driven around by Skoda and sort of sipping champagne in the back of the car as an hour before the tour comes into town.
You know, I don't ask for the lush life. The lush life asks for me, I guess, is all I got to say to that. You're done with your papers. The front page of the Herald Sports section says Bray back from the brink. This is a new owner. Niall O'Driscoll has bought the club, so he's spoken to Aidan Fitzmaurice, I presume, in the Herald this morning. So he's got an interview with him. The back page of the Irish Daily Mail this morning goes with that hockey picture in the lead. Ireland scorch into last 8. And it is great, isn't it, that the Irish fans can just sit there in London on Sunday evening and fold their arms and peer down at the English, desperate to qualify, and we're like, well, this game doesn't matter to us. Ireland-England rivalry? What rivalry? We don't care about you.
And even if we get beaten, because they are one of the top-ranked teams, they're the top-ranked team in our group, actually, England. If we get beaten, it's like, well, it doesn't really matter. We weren't trying anyway.
It's well done, minnows. Congratulations.
We're preparing ourselves for the quarterfinals here.
Exactly. See you in the quarters, England. Crisis meetings will finally end Miller impasse, and Delaney quizzed on debt pledge are the other two headlines in the back of the Irish Daily Mail. The back page of the Star this morning is €90 million to nab Harry. José must break record for Maguire. Somehow I do think that Virgil van Dijk's record as the most expensive defender in history could get broken this summer. Harry Maguire to Manchester United, if it's going to happen, it looks like it will break that record. You've also got the hockey, Dundalk, and the PFAI story on the back of the Irish Daily Star this morning. The Mirror then this morning goes with Manchester United as well. Moneybags Klopp must win the title. So Jose Mourinho has got the mind games kicking off pretty early here, saying that the heat is now on the Kop boss after a £175 million summer spree. You do forget, because of the World Cup, how much Liverpool have spent this summer. Also for Arsenal fans, exciting times. Smith Rowe, 18 tomorrow, debut goal better than winning the World Cup. I'm not sure who said that, because that's absolutely false, but it was a fantastic goal from Emile Smith Rowe. He is a name to remember. It was 1-1 draw with Atletico Madrid yesterday.
What happened?
So what happened for the goal?
Yeah.
A beautiful kind of cut on the right hand side, and it was one of those darting shots into the top corner where the ball just doesn't move. It's like, how can anything move in a straight line to that extent? It's like somebody who can draw a perfect circle. It's like, how is that so perfect without the help of...
God, Arsene Wenger's only gone on already. This
Unai, that is the Unai Emery bounce, as they call it. But they did lose on penalties to Atletico Madrid, so it wasn't a great day. The back of the Sun is Cop Top or Klopp's a flop. Jurgen's £176 million spree must land title. That's those Jose Mourinho quotes again. Something that we haven't seen so far. My Dubs fear. Collie Moran is backing Dublin for Sam despite a worry up front. The Sun Sport columnist writes, I do wonder if they're going to really miss Diarmuid Connolly and Bernard Brogan. It's a conversation we've been having, but I think they've just altered their game plan to allow those losses to not be felt too keenly. The front page of the Daily Telegraph sports section then is stabbed in the back. Michael Vaughan warns that Rashid's England call-up is an attack on county cricket.
What's the deeper point of that story, Eoin?
Well, the deeper point of this story is that Rashid has got called up, and it's an affront to England county cricket.
No, but like, what's behind it all?
County cricket has received the blow after Rashid's call up to England. The back page of the Guardian this morning is that picture you mentioned actually with the cycling. I won't be riding so close to the barriers. Tour de France leader Geraint Thomas has spoken of a shock after a spectator grabbed him and nearly caused a crash in the latest security scare in this year's race. You do feel it's going to take something crazy like that to happen if Geraint Thomas isn't going to ride into Paris in yellow. And the main story here in the back of the Guardian, football sexual abuse scandal, no evidence of institutional cover-up, inquiry set to tell the FA. So this is the inquiry that Clive Sheldon has been leading, launched in December 2016, and it says that there's going to be no paedophile ring, so to speak, within the FA, which is an interesting development because you always have that sort of suspicion, especially when you look at the numbers involved. And it's Daniel Taylor's piece, obviously. He's done excellent work on it over the years. And it's just, like, I'm sure these figures have been out there before, Adrian, but it's just worth reminding people that 300 suspects have been named and 849 alleged victims have come forward. 849 have come forward, so you don't know how many there really are out there. So he's obviously been investigating it for 19 months. The timeline is from 1970 to 2005, so it's not just a thing from the middle of the 20th century here. This is quite recent. The full report is going to be delivered to the FA in September. Taylor's already seen some of that, obviously, and Clive Sheldon, as I said, they've interviewed 35 survivors and another 70 people involved in the sport between in that 35-year window. So it's an interesting development. There's no involvement from or no grim sort of top tier level involvements in this football scandal.
Yeah, staggering numbers, and we await that report, and we'll have a read of that as it comes out. Thanks, Eoin. For the minute, we've lots of good stuff coming your way. First of all, let's hear from Stephen Kenny. Dundalk, as you mentioned a bit earlier, drew 0-0 with Larnaca at home in the Europa League last night, and here was his post-match thoughts.
Your assessment of the game. I was watching your body language for a lot of it, and the referee seemed to frustrate you, is possibly one way I'd put it.
Listen, I think overall it was a very tactical game. Chances had a premium, really. I felt, Larnaca, that's the way they play. They compact the midfield, they overload in the midfield, and I think they can bust possession. They're capable of that. I thought we probably carried the greater goal threat tonight, but we just didn't quite hit the target a few times. And but they weren't clear. I don't think either team had a real gilt-edged chance, but we had good chances in we just narrowly wide and narrowly over.
Finally, on a different subject matter, I was reading the programme before the match started, and I noted your position on the Liam Miller controversy down in Cork and the opening up of Páirc Uí Chaoimh. You said calling the GAA dinosaurs was being kind to dinosaurs.
I said maybe it did a disservice. Yeah, listen, that's your programme notes are what they are. You just that's nothing more to say on that, really. I think it's not just me. I think it's the whole country was surprised, really. It's such a hiding behind the rule book. I think that was the disappointment. But I don't know. Maybe it's rectified now. Is it? I don't know. Is it rectified?
I'm not sure.
It might be rectified, and you still feel it probably happened. But But the main thing for us tonight was that we're involved in European competition here, the Europa League. We're Ireland's representatives. We're very proud to be Ireland's representatives. There's determination to get through to the next round. We have it all to do, because we've got to go away and get a result, but we've never failed to score in any ground that we've been to in Europe. We've scored in 9 out of our 10 games away from home in Europe, and Borisov was the only game we haven't scored, and when we played them again we scored out there. So so the players can take confidence from that. But they will feel that if favourites, they'll be happy with the draw, and they will feel that they're in the ascendancy, which is only natural. But hopefully we can go and do it out there.
Yeah, Stephen Kenny in conversation with Maura Trassa following Dundalk's scoreless draw with Larnaca last night. So all to play for, as he says himself. It's 17 minutes past 8 on this Friday morning. Get your comments coming into us. We've hurling on the way and lots of other good stuff as well. Are we going to hear from Jim Bulger a bit later on? Is that on today's show?
No, we're playing that next week.
He's coming in next week. Is that the...
Well, we've actually spoiled the fact that it was recorded earlier in the week. Yeah, on yesterday's show.
I just thought he was coming in next week. That's
sorry, yes.
Next week's interview.
Quick edit. Yes, Jim Bulger will be live in studio next Wednesday morning.
Right, let's talk hockey, because Ireland have made it into the World Cup quarterfinals. They've beaten India yesterday by goal to nil, built on their win over the USA in round 1. It was a deflected shot off a penalty corner, beaten now the 7th and 10th ranked teams in the world. Ireland themselves ranked 16th, the lowest in that group, and the first time at the World Cup for 16 years. So that's the context. I'm delighted to say that forward Nikki Evans joins us on the line. Good morning to you, Nikki, and congratulations.
Good morning, Adrian. Morning, Eoin. Thanks for having me on.
We're delighted that you'd take our call this morning. Congrats, as I said. I was watching back your chat with Cliona Foley and off the bench just a few weeks back, and you were sort of discussing prospects for the tournament, that sort of thing. I'm not sure, as I said, you were the lowest ranked team in the group going into it, so I don't know how many others expected you to go through. Did you guys expect to go through?
Oh, listen, we always knew that we could come here and get out of our pool, which would be a top 3 finish, but to have qualified for the quarterfinal after 2 games and still have a game to spare is just, it's absolutely incredible. I'm so proud and delighted for the girls that everyone is bringing their best version of themselves to compete on the world stage and just showing what the Green Army is all about. And yeah, we're absolutely delighted.
How much did you discuss before the tournament or what the sort of goal was or where you'd like to get to? And conversely to that, have you had discussions already about that having changed at all? Or where's the mindset generally at?
Well, I think our mindset was key to getting those performances and to getting 2 wins for us. We were in a tough pool with world number 2 England, world number 7 USA, and world number 10 India. So we just treated each game like a cup final, and we did our homework on the teams and knew the game plan, and a superbly executed PCA yesterday from our sharpshooter Anna was the difference. And she'd been practicing it for hours and she hadn't missed one the day before, and I just knew yesterday that she was going to score. And it's just about a matter for us going out there every game and executing the game plan with a smile on our faces and enjoying it. There's absolutely no pressure on us over here, and now that we're into the quarterfinals, that gives us an extra 2 days rest. We don't have to play a last 16 game, and I'm not sure many teams will want to come up against us in a knockout game.
It's obviously your first appearance in the tournament from an Irish perspective since 2002, and obviously being so close to home, there's a decent Irish support over there as well. I presume it's been an incredibly enjoyable tournament so far.
Oh, listen, it's just been absolutely unbelievable. We're just trying to enjoy every minute of this incredible journey that we're on, and the atmosphere has just been brilliant. The games have felt like home games. We've had so many people over from Dublin, from all around Ireland, and you know, the Irish, no matter what sport it is, they always bring their best crowd and bunch of supporters to support any team that's competing. So we've actually been overwhelmed by all the support from home and from London. So it's been absolutely brilliant.
You mentioned, Nikki, about the treating every game like cup final, like the maturity yesterday to have scored the goal early on and in very untypical Irish fashion to be able to close the game out after that. How much did you discuss that sort of thing, like the opportunity to get ahead and then actually hold on to the lead?
Yeah, well, yesterday I think it hit 39 degrees pitch side at 2 o'clock yesterday. So it was energy sapping conditions out there. We played India a couple of times over the last few years, and we know that we've gotten results against them, and they're a top class side. They won the Asian Games, ranked number 10th in the world. So we knew at times yesterday that our backs would be against the wall, but that togetherness and that spirit that we have in our team, it was bodies on the line yesterday, and we just knew that we could get the win yesterday, and just so proud of all the girls and absolutely delighted to be heading into the quarterfinals.
So what do you do just within the tournament itself? Obviously you haven't beaten the USA and then India. Like, in terms of celebrating that sort of stuff, obviously there's a fairly quick turnaround of games. I'm assuming you're not all out enjoying yourselves too much, that you have to press pause on that a little bit for the minute?
Yeah, we just enjoyed the moment yesterday with friends and family after the game, and back to the hotel to rest and recover, and now we can go into Sunday's game against the old enemy, England, in front of a sellout crowd of 16,000 people with no pressure of needing to get any results. So that will be another fantastic day for us, no doubt.
Yeah, and a huge amount of pressure on them, obviously, to make the crossover, as you said, the last 16. But so, like, what does that mean from an Irish point of view, Nikki? Do you think, is it a case of trying to rest some of those frontliners and keep things fresh for? It looks like maybe potentially India again, if I'm right, potentially in the next phase. So, what will be the play come Sunday evening?
Yeah, listen, we'll prepare for the game like we did for USA and India, and do our homework and make sure that we know the game plan inside out and ready to enjoy again the challenge on Sunday. We want to keep our momentum going, keep our performances high, and keep building as we go into the latter stages of the competition. And I'm sure that Sunday is going to be a fantastic experience, and somewhat strange that England, world number 2 and current gold Olympic medalists, have to come out here to get a result against us.
It's interesting that you mentioned doing your homework there, because it was very striking to me yesterday, particularly charging down opposition penalty corners, that a lot of video analysis have been done. I don't think that kind of comes as a matter of luck, especially holding on and not conceding a single goal. I presume that there's been a lot of video analysis done on every team that you could potentially face now.
Yeah, absolutely. With the way the tournament is formatted, it gives you the opportunity to review each games and then prepare for the next game. And I mean, we spent hours looking at the key players for India on the set pieces yesterday. Their drag flicker, she's one of the best in the world. And some of the blocks yesterday that we had on PCD were just absolutely outstanding. And a key moment in the game when O'Flanagan went to video referral on what could have been another short corner and won the free out for a dangerous ball, having run it down superbly, was a big moment towards the end of the third quarter. So, yeah, it just doesn't, results like this don't just happen. And the girls, we've been doing our video analysis on the games with the staff and really honing in our game plan, and everyone has known it inside out. And I think that's why everyone seems so relaxed and confident in the walk out of the tunnel with smiles on our faces and people knowing what their job roles are, and it's just about going out there and enjoying the moment and executing the game plan. Yeah,
and if you take that on the flip side now, to what extent do you feel that other teams will be able to figure you guys out from your first 2 games, and in terms of how you've executed things, particularly on set pieces?
Yeah, I mean, teams will certainly maybe do a little bit more homework on us than they might have before coming into the competition. And the set pieces are a big area in hockey that can win you games, as we saw yesterday. And getting your homework right on them, and you're always trying to get one over on the opposition as to which set piece you're going to call, or setting them up to do one thing, to do another thing. Or sometimes it's just, if your set piece is that good, you will score it.
So, I mean, the big question, obviously, Nikki, is how far this group can go. What are you thinking?
Listen, anything's possible. You know, now that we're through to the quarterfinals, it's a knockout game. It's just a matter of on the day and doing our homework. We'll continue to prepare as we are and continue to enjoy every minute of this competition. We've been knocking on the door of world hockey for the last couple of years, and we've gotten some big results in the past, but maybe just faltered at the last hurdle, and now to get here and get to the quarterfinals, like, it's absolutely incredible, and we'll just give it everything we have.
It is incredible. It's an incredible journey, an incredible story. I mean, given that I think it was the back end of last year that you guys were still looking for a sponsor, and obviously Softco have come in, and you're well branded this morning as well, so well done for that. But there was a lot of discussions at the back end of last year about the sponsorship aspect, and I know like there was a suggestion that some of the players would have to pay a 500 odd quid levy to make this thing happen. And that, I mean, like, in that context, what you're achieving at the minute it's remarkable.
Yeah, listen, while we're speaking about it, a massive thank you to Softco for supporting us and for believing in our team before the competition had even begun. And it's absolutely incredible to have that belief, and people who have, Susan had played hockey herself and has been at all the games, and we're just so grateful for everything that they've done for us so far.
Yeah, well, listen, best of luck. I mean, it doesn't matter what happens against England, right? So we're sort of, it doesn't matter one way or the other. The old enemy, it's not lost in us that you did call them the old enemy a bit earlier on, so maybe that's good context. But look, good luck on Sunday, and good luck in the rounds after that, and hopefully the journey isn't done just yet. Nikki, thanks a million for taking our call.
Thank you very much.
Cheers, thanks a lot. That's Nikki Evans live on the line there from London. One of the great stories of the Irish summer, it has to be said. That's, I mean, as I said, in the context of everything that's gone on about how they were scrapping around financially to try and make this thing happen, it's none of those other nations would have been doing that. It's incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. When you look at kind of the professionalism as well in hockey, and as you say, the huge money that goes into some of those other sides. Ireland, the only non-professional side in their pool. Like England, of course, made up the vast majority of that team that won gold for Great Britain in Rio in hockey. So it like when you looked at that game, like, being completely honest from the outset, you're like, God, they have to get off to a good start here, because the last game is going to be so tough, and even before that, it could be viewed as a group of death from an Irish perspective completely, and to actually be going into the England game with nothing to play for, not even the possibility that they might get through but not get the relevant seed, like in terms of finishing first or second, that it's all guaranteed for them now, like quarter-final place guaranteed. And I think just looking at the potential teams they could play, like, obviously they can come back and play any of the teams that they've already come up against, and I think it's Korea, China and Italy then in Pool A, who will of course go in with the second and third place teams in the round of 16. So there's 6 potential teams to look out for at the moment.
Italy or India were 2 of the teams that I'd seen that were highly possible for them, apparently. So
okay,
the body of evidence is there that they can beat India, obviously. So we'll see how that goes. As you say, like, it's a lot of these players are also holding down full-time jobs, which is an incredible thing. And Nikki herself is playing in Hamburg, and will go back to, I think it's like a 50-50 job split essentially in the new season, where she is a lawyer, so she'll spend 50% of her time doing that, and 50% of her time being an elite athlete. And I guess that's probably pretty much as good as it gets for that group. As I said, a lot of them actually holding down just full-time jobs.
Yeah, this is the greatest achievement in the history of Irish hockey. Like, it can't be overstated. It is absolutely huge, and for them to do it, because, like, when you think about the sport's been around, what Irish hockey's been around for 125 years or something, and at every point in the history of the sport, that lack of not being professional wouldn't have been as pronounced. The more the game gets commercial, the more globalised it becomes, particularly in the likes of this part of the world, especially after Team GB winning gold in the Olympics, the more that professionalism becomes pronounced. And that just hammers home the scale of this achievement, that they've cruised through to the quarterfinals.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how, like, it has happened before in, you could call them niche sports before. Obviously, the Ireland men's cricket team on a number of occasions have had these sort of spikes of success, and, like, I think you could positively at this point reflect on that as having been the start of a successful trajectory for that team that's now resulted in them playing full test cricket, obviously. You just hope that there's some sort of a plan in place. The difficulty is that I don't know that anybody could have foreseen, if it was the back end of last year that they were scrambling around for a sponsor, that anybody could have foreseen such immediate success. Like, in that context, it's hard to go, well, if we get to the World Cup and we do quite well, maybe we'll put these growth plans in place. I think it's probably caught a lot of people by surprise.
Yeah, I think the argument against it being a flash in the pan is obviously the quality that's gone in terms of coaching, in terms of the way they think about it, like bringing in like psychology and all that sort of stuff into the team. Like without being a fully professional outfit, they've got more professional off the pitch. And then, like say, you look at the sport in general, and on the very same pitch, the Irish men's team won bronze in the Europeans before, and then qualified for their first Olympics in decades and decades and decades. So the sport is trending upwards. This is, of course, this is a great team, quite possibly the best Irish hockey team we've ever seen, but that's as a product of everything else. And you do feel that this isn't going to be an outlier, that this great team is in the middle of a run of great teams and the start of something potentially even better again.
Yeah, all right, we'll keep an eye on them over the next while. The quarter-final is going to be next Thursday.
Next Thursday, 8:15 p.m, unless they move it for television purposes.
All right, very good. We'll keep an eye on that. And on the game against England, which I think is 7 o'clock on Sunday evening. All right, it's 8:32 on this Friday morning. Delighted to have you along with myself and Eoin for the morning. We're going to talk hurling next. It's Jamie Wall, the former Cork hurler and Fitzgibbon coach with Mary I, is in studio with us very shortly. But first of all, here's Patrick Horgan ahead of their All-Ireland hurling semi-final on Sunday against Limerick. He's chatting to Maura Trass and Callig about how he prepares himself for big games.
I think the same as everyone. I think if you can just get better yourself all the time, you'll always be okay. But I think, like the video analyst, I don't know what other teams do. I know what we do, and like when the ball is thrown in on the day next week, nothing will really matter. It's like you against your man, and it'll just take it, as you said, it'll take a life of its own. And the ball will be thrown in, and there'll be no videos around then. Like there'll be just a game, and hopefully we can perform. Yeah.
It's a phrase we often hear said. The game took on a life of its own, and we'd be watching it, and we'd say the exact same thing, but. Obviously you wanted to take a life on its own on your terms, not the other team's terms. So how do you ensure that you're pulling, like say for example the Clare game, you guys did start off on the back foot, somehow you pulled it back. What was the difference? What did you do to pull it back?
I think we didn't do anything different. It was just a case of went in at half time. I think the 1-1 before half time kind of shook them a small bit because they were well on top. They were well on top everywhere, getting scores easy. And I think 4 points, they must have just felt like it wasn't enough at half time because they put in so much effort in the first half. And as soon as we came out in the second half and got 2 or 3 points, they probably were just thinking to themselves like this was, we put so much into it, like, and look where we are, like we're level up by a point only, and we were only kind of getting going then, like we didn't puck a ball in the first half, and it was just a case of they had the first half and we had the second, and we had it at the right time.
Yeah, Patrick Horgan in conversation with Maura Trass there during the week ahead of the 2 semi-finals this weekend. Off the Ball will be live from Croke Park, by the way, on Sunday. More details on that for you and on. But I'm delighted to say, as promised, we're joined in studio by Jamie Wall. Good morning to you, Jamie.
Adrian, how are you?
Very good. Thanks a million for coming in to us.
Thanks for having me.
You've been working with some of these lads up close and personal, so we'll get your thoughts on that in a minute. But it did strike me with the 2 matchups that we had and reading a good few of the previews that there hasn't been a huge amount of tactical breakdown necessarily these 4 teams really. There's been some conversation over the last few years about maybe tactical advances in the game, like Waterford would have been a good example of a team that would have sort of worked in that way, but it seems as if tactics is not necessarily a key for these 4 teams the weekend, that it's maybe more about matchups and physicality and that sort of stuff.
Yeah, maybe. I suppose just because it's so outwardly obvious, I suppose, when you're talking about Wexford, Waterford, Clare under Davy Fitz, because positions were changed around and stuff, you think, oh, that's a tactic and stuff, but I suppose the kernel of the tactics now at use is kind of the way the 4 teams that we're talking about are using the ball, and in particular in the case of Cork, Limerick and Clare, it's quite similar. The 3 of them kind of play quite a similar game. They would have similar players. I think Limerick obviously would be the most physical of those 3 mentioned, whereas Galway would have a slightly more direct style, just based, again, I suppose, personnel based on the fact that, they have, like, there was the rugby team comment that was misinterpreted, I think, during the week. Like, I think it was just a case of that they are quite, like, nobody said they weren't well able to hurl, but they are quite physical men, like Johnny Glynn, Joe Canning. Even some of their tidier hurlers are actually quite strong men, just so I suppose that kind of style, it lends itself to going that bit more direct, I suppose. But I certainly think it's not anything those 4 teams are doing isn't happening by accident. Like, so while we're not maybe focusing on the tactics because they're not as outwardly obvious, I think definitely, they are going to play a major part in the two games, between the four teams.
When you talk about the use of the ball and the physicality, is that one of the keys for that Clare-Galway game in some respects, that Clare are not the physical team that Galway are, and actually keeping the ball on the move on a fairly regular basis, it might be sort of key for them?
Yeah, it's paramount really for Clare if they're to give themselves any chance, and I am giving Clare a chance. I think, look, I've had a couple of arguments with people about it. They still have one or two things, we'll say, issues, and I think they might struggle in midfield, with the Galway midfield of David Burke and Johnny Cohn. But I think if Clare can use the ball correctly, get Podge into the game, get Tony Kelly into the game, I think when the two of them play well and seem to be at it, Clare are really at it, when they can use them and get them using the ball in the right way. I think, obviously they've had a very solid kind of plan B in terms of going long on top of John Conlon because he's so strong. It'll be interesting to see if they actually go with that, given that it'll be Dahi Burke he'll be going up against, who's probably, the most physically capable of handling him. Will they maybe try and move him somewhere to try and get a better matchup and maybe put someone like Shane O'Donnell on Dahi Burke and see can they run him? I don't know.
How do Galway respond to that? They don't just move Dahi Burke around after Conlon, do they? Given that, Brendan Bugler's described both of them in the paper this morning as the best pound-for-pound hurlers in the country.
Well up there, well up there at the moment anyway. On current form, definitely he wouldn't be too far wrong with that. It'd be interesting to see what Galway would do if Clare asked the question of them and tried to move them around in that sense. I think Galway would probably try and just keep their shape and stay that bit more rigid with, we'll say, Dahi Burke and Gerard McInerney in the middle of the defence. But I suppose, the flip side of that for Clare is, I suppose, do they want to go away from what has generally been working reasonably well for them, and are they just going to back their man and just say, look, John, let's have a go at him, kind of, the way Kilkenny maybe back in the day used to kind of give, we'll say, and it's something I expect Galway to actually do against Clare, but it's something that we'll say Kilkenny used to do, where Henry Shefflin would go on to the debutant for a while. We'll say he'd be whoever be considered a soft touch and try and break him, and then he'd get a 15-minute spell on the big player in the other team's defence, and they'd kind of alternate that. And I think the Kerry lads used to talk about hammering the hammer, like something similar to that. So it'll be interesting to see what Clare do in terms of, will they just try and actually go at Dahi Burke with that, or will they try and say, right, let's just try and take him out of the game. Let's put somebody, that bit quicker, more mobile on him and try and move him around and see, can we drag him away from that square where we might get a bit of joy. So it'll be interesting. Like I said, look, we haven't talked a whole pile about the tactical side of Saturday and Sunday, but I think it's actually something that's going to be quite interesting because it's not the obvious tactics, it's the kind of slightly more subtle, nuanced kind of things of, who are they going to move where? Are they going to do, slightly, are they going to move a guy one position and move another guy one position and actually see, is that going to make the difference?
Can I just ask you on that Conlon Burke one specifically, how does that work? So like Galway management sit down and they go, right, you're on Conlon for the day, that's what we want you to do. Clare management are sitting down and going, right, John, we need you pulling out to the wing, we're going to push somebody else in. So I presume everybody's covered all eventualities. If he goes out here, you're going after him, or you're not going after him, or whatever it is.
Something has to kind of give, I suppose, like from our own perspective, we'll say, when we're going through that, you obviously try to keep some bit of semblance of shape, in your back line, and so that generally is your 3 and your 6, barring...
So the value might be that leaving Burke there, forget about going after Conlon.
I would imagine that would be their first instinct anyway, and then you'd be looking at, is Conlon causing us troubles wherever he's gone? Okay. I think just in terms of when you're setting up a team, you kind of, even when you're setting up your team at the start of the year, we'll say you don't want your centre back to be, you want, if you've got a centre back who you say, right, he's going to be my man really to go putting out fires, you don't really want him to be your centre back, because if you need him to go and put out a fire somewhere, then your whole defence almost has to be reorganised around that. So you try to maybe get those guys at 5 and 7 or 2 and 4, right, so that you kind of have that leash that you can say, right, if he's either wing, either side, you can actually just follow him. When it's a central player, you have that bit less leash, and that's why I think it'll be interesting to see if Clare try and actually ask a question there tactically, because obviously forwards are that bit more fluid in their movement anyway,
The thing is, though, if Donald Maloney and Jerry O'Connor are picking out any of the Galway backs that they want to mark John Conlon, they can't really find a weak link.
No, yeah, well, that's true. No, I suppose you can't find a weak link in terms of defensively, absolutely not. But I suppose in terms of just trying to match up physically you might say, right, let's get John onto, we'll say maybe Adrian Toohey, who would be more suited to marking a Podge Collins or to marking a Shane O'Donnell, I suppose. And it's just going to be a case of, you know, if they put Shane O'Donnell at 14, where he's quite accomplished as well, you know, and maybe put John Conlon out into one of the two corners, like, are they going to say, right, who's going to actually, are we going to put Dahi out there and potentially weaken the centre of our defence, you know, when he's been such a linchpin there. So I suppose it is a case, look, like Galway aren't, look, it's not like Galway are going to be looking at anyone that they're looking, bar probably Adrian Toohey, who's not a small man, like, but he's not physically just at the same level as John Conlon. But bar him, realistically, all the other 5 of their backs are physically more than capable of handling anyone. So it's just, like I said, I suppose, like we said at the start, like, it's going to be a case of how Clare are going to use the ball and in terms of how they're going to use their setup. You know, how are they going to set up in terms of, is Tony Kelly going to play centre forward, or is he going to play wing forward? Are they going to try and get him onto Gearóid McInerney and see, can they get a bit of joy off him in terms of the separation that obviously, look, Gearóid kind of minds the space like a centre back kind of tends to do in hurling. He's very simple with the ball, just moves it right and left, you know, economical, we'll say. Are Clare going to say, right, let's try and get Tony 5-10 yards off him? Tony is obviously going to shoot. He always takes 5, 6, 7 shots a game. And in case of, are we going to try and get him into shooting position and see, can he pick off them 4 or 5 points? Because if his radar's on and if he's getting that separation with Gearóid McInerney, then there's a huge chance that he could pick off 5, 6, 7 scores in the game. You know, like he's played badly in games, and you're looking, not badly, but he hasn't played to what you would expect a level of him. And then you go back and you look at this thing and you're like, right, Tony Kelly is 5 points from play, 6 points from play. He wasn't as anonymous as I thought, but he does tend to kind of drift in and out of games, but all of a sudden he does so much damage in them 2-3 minute spells that he's in the game, you know. So I suppose it's just going to be a case of, can they get that separation between him and whoever he's on, that, and then if he gets that space, is the radar going to be on? Because if it is, then I think, you know, it's a case of get him on as much ball as you possibly can and give him that leash to go.
We did wonder about Galway at the start of the year and how they'd sort of react to being champions, how easily or not that crown would sit. And they obviously had a little bit of a scare against Kilkenny earlier in the year, but I mean, it seems to be sitting easily enough. Having said all that, you were hinting a bit earlier on, maybe you're leaning the other direction, are you, this weekend?
I'm giving Clare a chance. Yeah, I am giving them a chance. Look, I'd be a fool to go and say that I think they're going to beat Galway, like, because Galway are capable of cutting loose at any stage, and I think the crown has rested reasonably easy on Galway's head. I think what's helped them massively is being in Division 1B and under the current setup. I don't know why you'd be in such a rush to be in 1A, because as it stands, you know, Galway got to build things up nice and easy, you know, and peak at the right time, and especially with the current ridiculous system where you've got league quarterfinals where the 4th team in 1B, like technically the 10th ranked team in the country, is in the top 8 in the league. It's kind of ludicrous, like, so under that current system, I see no reason why you wouldn't be happy enough to plod away in the league, especially
avoid the ferociousness.
Exactly, especially under the new championship where you've got that bit of time to get things going anyway, you know. It's not like Galway need to be hopping off the ground when they play their first round of the Leinster Championship. Realistically, they know they're going to comfortably be in the top 3 in Leinster. So I think it's lended itself, and I think they've got a very good strength and conditioning coach, and they've kind of, you know, they've planned their run to be hitting a good spell at this time of year. So it's just going to be interesting in terms of where they are, you know. I think they have been relatively low key up to now, so it's just going to be interesting to see how have they timed that exactly like we're saying, and that they're ready for a big burst in over 2 games, whereas Clare and all the rest of the teams in Munster have had to peak on a number of occasions just to get out of Munster, you know.
Well, that's been one of the conversations as well had around the other game in Cork versus Limerick this week as well. Donald O'Mahony talking about John Myler learning a thing or two from David in terms of the week-to-week basis, in terms of, you know, going from Premier League where at the end of every game, no matter how big it is, the manager comes in and says, right, that game's done, on to the next one. And apparently John Myler has been doing a lot of that this year. He's kind of tapped into that mindset.
Yeah, well they've had to, like, you know, and you have to kind of, you know, learn or die kind of pretty quick in Munster. I mean, like, I know, just, you know, personally, like, I met 1 or 2 of the Limerick lads after they lost that game to Clare in Cusack Park, and they were obviously deflated after kind of the defeat, like, and I was kind of just, you know, trying to temper it just by saying, look, the bottom line is the second best team in the country last year and the third best team in the country last year are both out now, while you're gone through in the top 3. So look, yeah, it'd be nice to be in a Munster final, but that's not the be all and end all anymore. It is that, you know, it's that mindset now, I think, and we're moving towards that mindset of getting into the top three, you know, and I think it hasn't devalued the provincial championships as such in terms of as a championship as a whole. I think it's definitely actually almost made it more valuable in the sense that there's no second chance now from Munster. You know, you either get out of Munster or you don't. But in a sense, maybe it's devalued that final, that, you know, that terms of the actual winning of it is less important than qualifying from it. And I think, you know, that mindset, you know, of, you know, week to week, you know, move it on, it's a league, just get on with it now, you know, kind of that just, and in terms of as well, what training you can do in that spell, you know, like realistically, like you can do very, very little. So you have to get your work done kind of, so that all those soccer elements of kind of the pre-season, and then for most of the season you're just ticking over bar one or two breaks, you know, if you've got maybe an international break where you can do a bit of work with guys. The same,
Cork have had a break.
Cork got their break from this, so, and again, so that's another interesting element to it, because it'll be interesting to see, you know, have Cork benefited from getting the 5-week kind of break, or would the fact that, you know, Limerick got a week off, played one of the Joe McDonough teams, played Carlow, then got 2 weeks off, was it? Or 1 week off, played Kilkenny, and 2 weeks off now to play Cork. Like,
perfect.
Is that the perfect run-in, I suppose? And that's what we're going to find out this weekend, because we've got two teams that had a break against two teams that went through, you know, kind of getting the slew of games, 2 games, little break, go, you know. So it's going to be very interesting to see, you know, like Cork 2005, Tip 2016, they're the last two teams in the last 20 years to win the Munster Championship and win the All-Ireland in the same year. So obviously something was broken. So it will be interesting to see is if this year, you know, is it now beneficial to win the Munster Championship, you know? So
like, it's probably a case of, it strikes me looking at the football championship and obviously the different format that we've had there, and that turnaround that we've just been discussing of sort of games week on week, like different teams react to it differently. Like we've discussed it for years as a fait accompli one way or the other, but actually it really suits some teams. And other teams it just doesn't. Yeah,
definitely. And I think the teams it tends to suit are the ones that get enough cracks at it, you know, like Kilkenny got enough cracks at figuring it out. And I think, you know, but like then the flip side of that is Kilkenny always knew as well that they didn't really have to be at top gear to win a Leinster Championship, whereas to win a Munster Hurling Championship, realistically, like, you had to be at top gear 3 days out before. Like, if you drew the quarter final, you had to be at top gear to win your first round, second round and final. You know, so I suppose it's very hard. Like, you know, you talk to any of the guys who know a lot more about, you know, strength and conditioning and kind of getting a team to that pitch, that it's quite hard to get anyone to peak twice in a year, let alone 3 or 4 times in a year, you know. So I suppose, you know, that side of it, you know, we're talking about the formats and stuff. Like, I think, you know, it is a strange championship in both senses, the hurling and the football, in that we've got so many different teams with so many different conditions, you know, like they're living under different conditions. Like, one team plays every 3-4 weeks, then another team plays week on week, you know, and it's just kind of like, I think it's something that, you know, I was listening to the show last Monday with Michael Quinlivan, and we were talking about tier championships, and we're talking about these kind of things that until we get a system whereby we can actually set in stone what's happening from the start of the year and not have kind of like, you know, you're trying to set up a team and at the start of the year you say, right, if we win our games we're playing every couple of weeks, but if we lose one of our games then we're going into a totally different championship, you know, and it's just kind of, it's a bit strange, it's a little bit Irish, like, you know, just that format, kind of discrepancies in the format, like, you know.
Is Harnedy out?
I don't know, and that's I'm not doing the Kerry thing now, so don't you start.
Oh, drop it off.
Don't you start, 5 minutes beside you and I'm starting off. I'm going to be tipping Limerick in a minute now. The transformation is complete.
Like, if he's not there, is that because it seems everybody can't really pick between the two of them? Certainly a lot of the pundits we've had on this week are finding it hard to pick between Cork and Limerick. If he's not there, is that the thing that swings it?
Possibly, yeah. I mean, he'd be a huge loss for Cork if he's not there. Like, he'll be a massive loss. I think if he's not there, it maybe gives them an opportunity actually to do something that they might have had to do anyway. Except it maybe wouldn't have been Seamus Harnedy losing out. I think, you know, a move that, look, I don't know, I think they certainly have to consider is putting someone new into the half back line and moving, especially if Seamus is out, like maybe putting Tim O'Mahony in centre back, moving on Cadigan out to the wing, moving Mark Coleman to midfield and pushing Bill Cooper up. And the reason I'm saying that is, like, you know, look, I'm a huge fan of Mark Coleman. I think he's just class. Like, I love the way he plays hurling, I love the way he used the ball. But last year he struggled massively with Brick Walsh's physicality in the semi-final. It was the only game he struggled all year in. And, you know, no disrespect to Brick, but he wouldn't be, you know, he's in the twilight of his career, he wouldn't be overly mobile. Whereas by comparison, Limerick's two wing forwards are Gearóid Hegarty and Tom Morrissey, who are both very, very physical men. Like, we've played against them in the Fitzgibbon with Mary I in UL, and only when you actually get up beside them you see how physical they are, but they can also both move. So I think physically, like, I mean, look, if I was Limerick, I would be looking at Mark Coleman and seeing an opportunity just purely based on that the two matchups they have physically are so dominant there, and to see could they break Cork there. Look, another option Cork have is that they could just swap Mark straight into centre back and bring on Cadigan and Christopher Joyce in the two wings, and then you have two very physical men out there in the wings and Mark holding the middle, which he's well able to do as well. But I suppose for me, especially if Seamus Harndy's out, I would say the best move is Tim O'Mahony into centre back, where he played so well during the league. He can hold that middle and he can hurl the ball as well, because Kyle Hayes is going to drop off, so there's going to be an opportunity for your centre back to play a lot of ball, and then get Eoin Cadigan and Christopher Joyce on the two wings, because physically they're probably, maybe add Damien Callahan there, they're probably the only two backs who are physical enough to deal with Gearóid Hegarty and Tom Morrissey, you know. So, and I think Tom Morrissey, especially Gearóid Hegarty, but especially Tom Morrissey, have been massive to Limerick's success this year. Like, you know, like Tom Morrissey's probably in the running a dark horse for hurler of the year for me. Like, I think he's 20-1 at the moment. I would say a good performance again at the weekend, and he's a fella who's had a massive year all year, you know. He's just been one of these guys who just constantly drives Limerick on. He collects ball, he comes back and protects the half back line very well, and he carries the ball out as well, and just takes the pressure off the team a lot. Like, he showed real leadership qualities all year. He was captain at under-21s last year. And he's just a guy who's been really impressive all year. So I think it's just something, it's a worry from a Cork perspective that are Limerick gonna maybe see if they can target Mark physically, like, and then it's a case of, will they get joy off it? Look, you know, it could play into Cork's hands. Mark Coleman could end up on a load of ball, but I just think it's something that they have to be looking at, saying, like, there's an opportunity there for Limerick, because physically they have one of the biggest middle eights I've ever seen, between Diarmuid Burns, Declan Hannon, Dan Morrissey and the three lads, and then the two boys midfield aren't exactly small either, you know.
It's a noticeable trend, isn't it? The size of, say, like that half back line for Kilkenny, they're all over 6 foot, they're massive, like the middle eight, as you say.
Yeah.
Look at Galway, like it's starting to become a bit of a trend where being a wristy hurler is no longer a good thing. It's no longer a good thing on its own. You need to be a big man as well. Like, I wonder, is this just an anomaly?
So certainly in certain positions, I think, you know, definitely, like you said, in that middle eight, just because, like, so much of the play arrives down there, you know. You think about it, like puck outs. Like, if a team doesn't go short, their puck outs are going to land on the opposition half back line, you know, probably around the opposition 45 with the main. Most goalies are hitting the ball, like, and if they're going to go that far, they're going to come down with height, because they're going to have cleared 3, 6, 8. They're going to have to clear 16 players in the field, so they're going to have to come down with a degree of height. So having that physicality there is a massive thing, you know. I mean, even just midfielders anymore, like, I mean, Cian Lynch and Dara Donovan are both quite physical as well for Limerick. So it is, look, that move towards the physicality, you know, it was inevitable to happen, really, because I suppose, you know, kids, you know, at 16, 17, 18 are in gyms now. They're, you know, all those things are happening, like, you know, and it's a reality, like, you know. Obviously the basics of hurling are the most important thing, but I think, like, when you look at these teams, it's not a case of, you know, it's not a case of everyone being built like Tarzan and not being able to hurl. Like, they're well able to hurl too. It's just a kind of a byproduct of the work that's being done over the last 10-15 years in terms of us catching up sports science wise with everything that, you know, physicality now is such a major part of the game as well, you know. Yeah, the other trend I noticed, and I know you mentioned it at the top, Adrian, in terms of your familiarity with some of these lads through Mary I. It was written in the Irish Examiner this morning, which is an astonishing stat, that more than half of all the players in the squads this weekend are either students or teachers. And like, we had Matthew O'Hanlon on the show yesterday, and he was like talking about taking time out of work this summer as well, just to focus on the hurling and give it a good old crack. It does seem that
having the summers off is kind of the perceived wise thing to do.
Yeah, thanks for that. This is my pitch now for primary school teachers. Anyone doing the CAO, lads, get it in. No, in fairness, look, it is like, and I think it is noteworthy, like, the student lifestyle, it lends itself to, look, you're finished in May, you've got the whole summer off, and realistically, especially with the new championship now of the 4 weeks, like, you need that time off just for in terms of like not having to get up in the morning, do a day's work and try to kind of drag yourself along to do something then in the evening. I think whether it's being a teacher or whether it's being a student, like, it does lend itself to this borderline semi-professional lifestyle that a lot of them seem to be living without the kind of financial benefits, and I think like, we kind of get a small bit bogged down in it, like, I think Jamie Byrne got in hot water, a couple of months ago when he said that he was thinking of doing teaching because, one of the reasons he said was that he'd be able to go home at 3:30 and he could have a nap or something before going training. And he got a bit of a slating, and I just thought it was unfair because, like, if Jamie Byrne had been a farmer and he came out and said, I'm going to do the teaching because I can come home and I can milk the cows and I have time to milk the cows and go training, nobody would have batted an eyelid. Everyone would have just said, fair play to him, he's working hard, he's getting out at 3:30. But all of a sudden, the
implication being the teachers,
the implication just being like that he's nothing to do with himself. But it's just like, kind of, look, it does, like, there's no point beating around the bush, like, that lifestyle as a teacher or as a student, like, you do have more hours in the day. Like, it's not that you're not working as hard, like, you can stay there all day if you want, like, there is plenty of work to do, but by the same token, there's plenty of opportunities to get it done, and the nights you're training that, you can get home and relax. And I suppose then, the summer's off. Again, it's not that they've the whole summer off and that they're not doing a bit of preparation, but it's that, you're not bound 9 to 5, you don't have to be inside in off the ball at 6 a.m, like, you don't have to be.
Well, just as we're talking, I'm sort of strongly considering a career change because a nap at 3:30 in the afternoon is, I think, exactly what I would require on most days. Talk to us a little bit just about the Cork team, Jamie, in terms of the demolition, obviously, in the semis last year, and this Cork team. Like, looking at it, I looked at that team and then the Munster final team by way of a sort of a rough comparison. It's not a huge amount of turnaround in terms of players. Like, there might be 3 players in, three players out. So, like, what is it, if anything, that's different that if you're a Cork fan, that's suggesting that they're going to beat Limerick this weekend?
I just think, look, I think the scoreline at the end of the semi-final last year was hugely flattering and to Waterford, and not in a they deserve to win the game, absolutely, but I think, it was slightly skewed by the fact that Damien Callahan got a second yellow and got sent off after, I think there was only a point or two in the game at that stage. And in that last 5-6 minutes kind of garbage time, as it's been called, Waterford got a goal as well, so that kind of put a bit of gloss on it that maybe wasn't there, whereas the game was probably maybe a 3 or 4 point victory for Waterford. It was a Waterford win all the same, and it always was, like, and I'm certainly not saying that it wasn't deserved, but I think, just the margin of the defeat was probably a small bit bigger than it ever really should have been in terms of what the gap between the two teams was. Different for Cork this year. I just think they're a year further down the tracks. I think, like, I actually, it's just one of the quotes that stuck out in my mind was one of yours there about a month ago, where I think Cork had burst onto the scene at the start of the Munster Championship, and you were talking to Ger here, and you just said, it was the day of the Tipperary game actually, and you said, oh my God, I can't believe I forgot about all these good young Cork players at half time.
Yeah, we kind of discounted them.
Yeah, and then you said, oh my God, I can't believe I forgot about all these good young Cork players, and then at full time you said, oh yeah, I can't believe I forgot how young all these good Cork players were, with that bit of inconsistency. So I think, like, they're another year down the tracks, I mean, they've had a few more learning experiences this year in terms of that Tipperary game, the slightly Jekyll and Hyde nature of that, not closing out the game against Limerick against 14. And I think, to be honest, I think those are massive, are good things, because a lot of this Cork team are 23, 24, 25, which is quite young. A lot of them are 23, are young guys, and I think they're still learning the game, and they're still learning how to win games and close out games, So I think, again, like I said, I think the main difference between this year's team and last year's team is, while it is roughly the same team, it's a team that played last year and learnt the lessons of last year, touch wood, because I'm quite fond of him. Like, we played underage together, myself and Damien, but I don't think Damien's going to rush out again this year and get caught with a sidestep and leave his hurley there to get sent off at a crucial stage of a game. That's a lesson you hopefully only learn once, you know. And things like that, you know, are kind of, you know, they're chastening experiences, but they are massive learning experiences. And I think, you know, for a young Cork team to have been through that, you know, to have 2 Munster championships on the back of it, and, you know, to have had that experience of playing in a semi-final in Croke Park last year, I think that would stand them in very good stead.
Like there's so many interesting, a lot of what you're saying, it strikes me, applies to Limerick as well, and the trajectory that they're on. There's so many interesting stories about that, and whether the bank of success that they've had at underage level stands to them at this level, and, you know, all that sort of stuff. So with all that in the mix, what are you thinking?
I'm probably leaning towards Limerick. Yeah,
right.
I am leaning towards Limerick, and I just think.
Cute.
No, it's not the cute Kerry tourism coming over the border. It's just
nothing wrong with that.
There isn't. No, there's nothing wrong with it. No, my 2 grandparents are well versed in it now, giving it to us for years. They say, you'll beat us. I'm kind of sick of listening to it, but go out then and we lose by 10 points every time we go up to Croke Park. But I'm leaning towards Limerick. I don't know what it is. I just think. I think, you know, their display down in Páirc Uí Chaoimh was really strong, and there was a lot of leaders came to the fore that day. I think the day against Clare was just a kind of an anomaly in the sense that they were playing their 3rd week in a row. They had kind of had the relief of qualifying out of Munster, and subconsciously I think that seeped in. And then when that game slightly got away from them, you know, it just fell away. It fell apart, kind of much in the same way that the Cork Waterford game got away from Cork, and it just fell apart. You know, and I just think Limerick have slightly more. I think there's a couple of kind of. I really would struggle to see any player on the Limerick team who I would say there's something to be targeted there, whereas I think there are 2 or 3 kind of spots in the Cork team that I'm just a small bit concerned about going into Sunday. So a slight nod towards Limerick, but, you know. All
right. I personally think a Limerick-Galway final would be pretty epic. I have to say it's a game that I'd definitely be looking forward to. Jamie, thanks a million for coming in.
Thanks for having
me. Really enjoy that. Jamie Wall, all thoughts hurling ahead of this weekend. I should mention as well that we don't have any hurling show today, which is slightly disappointing for everybody. But then on the flip side, it's off on the road for the first time ever on Sunday. It's going to Croke Park. Shane Stapleton and a mighty crew are headed to the Boyle Sports Box from 1 o'clock on Sunday to reflect on Saturday's game and look ahead as well to Sunday's epic matchup. And he's going to be joined by Dan Shannon, Tommy Welch and by Paddy Maher. So it's a pretty good lineup. As I said, a 1 o'clock start. It'll be broadcast across all the Off the Ball social channels, so keep an eye out over the next few days and more details of that anon. We also have an opportunity for you to go to Croke Park the weekend. Another shout for this morning's competition here in OTBAM, a pair of tickets for Croke Park on Sunday. I said shout on. Croke Park on Saturday. It's too early to be saying anything else, right? To watch the Electric Ireland Minor Championship semi-final between Dublin and Galway at 3 o'clock, and I suppose you can stay in your seats probably for the Senior Hurling Championship semi-final as well between Galway and Clare while you're at it. So head over to twitter.com/offtheball and just RT or tweet there the specific one that mentions the competition to enter that, or you can leave us a comment on Facebook or on YouTube to enter all of that. So up next we're going to be discussing the war that has unfurled this week between Irish football, between the FAI and the players' body, the PFAI. And we're going to do that right now. We're going to hear from Fran Gavin of the FAI and the PFAI, Stephen McGuinness next. They were both chatting to Nathan Murphy yesterday. But first of all, we're going to bring you the main man, John Delaney, CEO of the FAI.
There's no way it's more than a 2-minute walk from your office to Stephen McGuinness's office. Yet, you haven't met with the PFAI for well over a year at this stage. Why not?
There's a structure in the FAI which Fran Gavin, who deals with competitions, there's different departments in the organisation that deal directly, be it legal issues, financial issues, competitions issues. Fran Gavin deals with the PFAI in all matters, and when you interview him later, he'll give you an insight into the day-to-day workings that have been going on over the last period of time.
But you're the head of the association, John, and we've had an issue within the past month of players going up to 2 months without being paid in your league. Is that not a stage where you have to sit down, where your leadership is needed to step in with the PFAI?
Which we did with the clubs. So we sat with Limerick and we sat with Bray, and all the players are now up to date. Just like I sat with Joan Martin about the redevelopment of the stadium in Drogheda, like I sat with Tim Lucy down in Cork about the Glanmire project, and we sit with DCC about Dalymount Park. They're the big strategy things that come across my desk, and there's not a day that I don't deal with a League of Ireland matter. But the structure of the organisation on operational matters, that's Fran Gavin's job to do, and that's what he does, and he'll outline that to you when he sees you later.
But from a purely player's point of view, they have chosen the PFAI to represent them. Are you willing to talk to the PFAI?
And we have a structure where Fran Gavin, who's our Director of Competitions, deals directly with the PFAI, and that's the structure.
But are there not certain issues when players are going 2 months without being paid, having to pay for their own operations, that's a time where you as the CEO have to step in?
That's when we stepped in and we dealt with Breen and Limerick directly, and as of today, there is no players' wages outstanding. That's the most important point to make. And if you look at last year, the salaries were nearly €6 million to players, all paid. Licensing in general has been very good for the League of Ireland. Nothing, like I said earlier, VAR has had its issues in football. Licensing is not something that you say is going to be 100% perfect, but it's done well for the league.
Would you accept then there's a communication issue?
And if you look at the industry over the last 3 years, the league clubs have generated €50 million. Okay, so it's an industry that we want to grow, but there's a structure in the organisation to deal with all these things. And when you speak to Fran, he'll outline to you in detail how that's going on operational level. My role is to deal on strategy, like Drogheda United, like Dalymount Park, like Glanmire. And the biggest issue, for the league going forward from the FAI's perspective is the structure that will run the league going forward. And we've been sitting with the clubs for a period of time, and we want an answer to that by December of this year, so we can set out the strategy for the league going forward. This is the hybrid system that's been much mentioned, that both the clubs and the FAI run the league together.
So handing some of the power back.
Yeah, absolutely, and doing it in partnership together. And that's something that we would like the clubs to kind of come to a position with us by the end of December. That's the biggest issue for me at the moment.
It does feel as though issues like this, and they do crop up year on year, are undermining any of the good things that are happening. And I'm sure you'll talk about Dundalk tonight in the Europa League in Cork City, and some of the success stories of the league. But these stories, they're what end up on Liveline, the players not being paid, that all the good things that are happening are undermined by this. So is it a communication problem that you're not getting the message across, that you're dealing with the issues at Bray and Limerick? And why aren't the PFAI involved in those negotiations when you're talking with Bray as well?
I think
why hasn't that been fed back to the players through the PFAI?
See, we deal with the clubs directly, and Fran deals with the PFAI. That's the way it cuts, and that's the way it works.
John Delaney in conversation with Nathan yesterday. It just all seems a bit needless, right? Like the FAI released a statement that it seemed as if they hadn't got full agreement from the PFAI before they actually released it. I am searching for a quote here that I'm going to find from Fran Gavin, who we are going to hear from in just a minute, in relation to the thing and in relation to that specifically. It's probably one of those newspapers there at the Star. It just seems as if I mentioned at the top of the show that Pat Dolan has described this in the Star today as a toxic relationship between the FAI and the PFAI. It all seems a bit pointless.
Yes.
That we have to go through this publicly. The quote that I have here, it's from the quote in the Irish Daily Star today from Fran Gavin, in relation to the €300,000 number that's been posited in terms of a floating fund that would look after the players of clubs who have hit financial difficulty for, I think some of the stipulations are they hadn't foreseen the financial difficulty. Generally financial difficulty arises because it hasn't been foreseen. But Fran Gavin says, in relation to the statement behind that, which, as I said, that's the part that for me I find a bit baffling, that why would you not do all the back channeling and the conversations that need to exist, have full agreement and then have your press release? We wanted to get it out there so clubs would be aware of it, to make sure that the players particularly were aware of that, and that's what we did. That's pretty bullish. That's outwardly saying we just floated a kite.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's is it? Do you feel that that's sort of an admission, or do you feel that that's sort of like?
We wanted to get it out there so clubs would be aware of it. We wanted to get it out there. The inherent implication of that is that we didn't have agreement, but we wanted to tell everybody we were doing it.
Yeah. It's weird, isn't it? It's very strange, the order of events here, but it's also very strange to not consult with the PFAI, or if we're to believe what the PFAI have said, SIP to. But B, to actually go ahead and include the fact that you have, or the idea that you have communicated with them in your statement. At the very least, if you haven't communicated with them, then don't bloody put it in the statements.
They also, they work in the same building. The PFAI has residence in the FAI HQ.
Yes.
I don't know. So, John Delaney, as you heard there, repeatedly told Nathan that he should speak with Fran Gavin, who's the point man and all of this from the FAI point of view. So that's exactly what he did.
Stephen McGuinness of the PFAI was on OTBAM this morning, and he agreed that the concept is the right one, but also described it as a point-scoring move, as a missile launch, turning it into a media circus. Why then were there no negotiations since last Thursday when the PFAI suggested that there should be a fund put in place? Why not talk to the FAI and get everything completely ironed out in terms of whether or not they have the funds available before putting out a statement at 5 o'clock yesterday evening?
Look, around any issue, whether it's this, the clubs, the recent Limerick and the recent Bray Wanderers issue, discussions are ongoing with everybody. Where, when, who and what we discuss is kept internally in the FAI, and that continues. That's the way we've always conducted our business. Our only priority here is to make sure that the players have security. That's why the fund is there. So, people are aware of things. Discussions are ongoing, but those discussions are internal to us, and who we discuss things with and what they are about, it's not for in our case, the public domain, is to get a solution. We're here to find a solution.
Did the PFAI know that they were being asked for €150,000 for this?
We're here to find a solution. People are fully aware of the situation. That's what I'm saying to you. So,
but they're saying they weren't aware of the situation.
That's the PFAI. That's fine. If that's their attitude, that's grand. The position.
So you're saying that they did know.
What I'm saying is the position here is to get comfort for the players. The PFAI gave it a cautious welcome. I see that, and that's good to hear. But I think they realise that it's the right thing to do. They have the means to support this, and that's what we intend to do.
Yeah, so Frank Gavin, in conversation with Nathan yesterday at FAI headquarters, we discussed these things internally. They are not for the public domain, says Frank Gavin, who also said, we wanted to get it out there so clubs would be aware of it, which is totally at odds with that sentiment. Personally, I just find it all a bit bizarre. There was a pretty straight question asked there. Were the PFAI aware that they were being asked to front up 150 grand as part of this floating fund? And Frank Gavin alludes to the fact that they were aware of it without actually saying that they were in agreement with it. And I mean, if it's actually such a small, that aspect of it, if everybody's in agreement that, like, how frequently do you get two sides of an argument in Irish sport that are in agreement that the concept is good, but yet it still manages to fall down? That's the incredible thing of this for me, that both sides are saying, geez, this is a pretty good idea. Like, it's also, I think the overall point here is the FAI are obviously hinting that, is it FIFPro that the PFAI get a lot of funding from? Yeah. Full professional players are required to contribute to a floating fund as well for their domestic league, which is obviously the League of Ireland, and so it has them, apparently it gives 300 grand, I think is also the number for that. And so FAI are aware of this figure and they're saying, well, let's do this deal. I just don't understand why they wouldn't sit in a room, walk up the corridor, hey, we've got this idea, what do you think? Could we agree sums of money? And also, why do the FAI require the PFAI to match their fund for it? Yeah. Because 150 grand in itself is not a small amount of money and would actually help address a lot of these issues. It would
plug some of the holes, yeah, without question. I just genuinely feel that, and I don't want to kind of be an FAI sympathiser here, but I genuinely feel that this was a lack of awareness on the FAI's part, that this was deliberate. We were discussing this on yesterday morning's show. Why did this statement come out the night before John Delaney and Fran Gavin were before the press? It's because they genuinely thought this would bring them good press. They didn't bat an eyelid at the idea that the PFAI would be angry about this. Or that they hadn't even been contacted about this. They thought, here's 300 grand. This is going to be great. The media day tomorrow is going to be a resounding success because we're putting up 300,000 euro for the players.
It's a good call.
The Limerick and Bray questions are going to be irrelevant now. And then they go to bed and they wake up and they're like, oh shit.
It's a good call, but somebody in that conversation surely goes, does it matter that the other side haven't actually agreed to this yet?
But that's what I'm saying. It's just a pure lack of awareness. I'm not sure if I'm doing the FAI too much of a service or too much of a disservice here, but they just didn't see that coming. They genuinely didn't believe that would be the case. That they were, to a certain extent, that they didn't see it was a problem.
Right. Final note on this one. We'd Stephen McGuinness, as Eoin says, on OTBAM yesterday morning, and then obviously events ensued following that. So it was right and proper that we caught up with Stephen again. He's the head of the PFAI, that we would catch up on again post those John Delaney and Frank Gavin conversations. So again, that's what Nathan did yesterday.
It's interesting, like when I came into the building first, you could contact John Delaney directly. I could contact John Delaney directly on issues that you know would be big issues. So whether it was back in the day where players at a Dublin Super Cup, there was an issue on appearance fee and it was going to be a big issue, you contact John Delaney direct and the issue would be resolved, or he'd come back to you. So you would have that working. As time went on, that sort of went away a little bit, and after the Women's International, we were given correspondence to us saying that all discussions in relation to the FAI must go through Fran Gavin. That was what we were told. But to be honest, I ain't going to be dictated to by anybody to tell me who I can and can't contact. If I want to contact, I'm CEO of our organisation. If I want to contact John Delaney, I'll contact John Delaney. If he decides that he doesn't want to respond to me, that's his decision. That's ultimately his decision. But from our point of view, we have always communicated with the FAI on anything that we've done. We've always kept the communication lines open. It's their decision as we sit right now to decide that they don't want to do that, and they don't seem to want to deal with us direct.
No, John Delaney, we asked him about that. Does he feel for such an important issue that maybe he should intervene and get involved? He seems happy to let Fran Gavin take the lead, that this is a League of Ireland issue, that he's the director of competitions, this is his job to deal with situations like this, and that keeping going down that route is the way to go. Do you feel that the only way that this gets solved, that somehow the two organisations can start working properly? Because the one thing that everybody says, and whether they're platitudes or whether there's a real deep belief, they want the best for the players, they want the best for the league. Of course. Do you need to sit in a room with John Delaney and argue it out, trash it out, and somehow come to an understanding?
I think that's clear, Nathan. I think that's clear. That has to happen. I think we're open to it. I think Fran has a role to play as director of competitions, but I think this is above that now. I think we're at a situation where when there's funds of this nature being set up and when there's been issues for so long now, I do think it is John Delaney's time now to come to the table and say, look, guys, we all need to get on here for the better of the game, for the better of the players within the game. We all have to have a good working relationship, which was in place. Like, it's not that long ago where we were working together, but obviously that has broken down. I said to you, since April 2017 I've seen it get gradually worse to the point where we are today. So look, we're open to it, and we always have, and we'll always keep communication lines open, but it is very difficult. Like I've reported last week, 7 meeting requests to come and meet. It's just about basic issues in the league. Like, I think there's a point where John Delaney has to get involved when you have 20% of the players in the league not being paid their basic salary. That's the reality of it. 2 of our top 10 teams couldn't pay wages, and at some stage in the past, John Delaney would have played an active role in this and worked with the PFA to resolve issues, and that unfortunately hasn't happened for quite a while. And as I said to you, we're more than open to discuss it.
Finally, if the concept of this fund is the right thing, and if the way the FAI want to go down is with the PFAI contributing, are you going to put this proposal to your members?
I think to do anything like that, Nathan, I think you have to get the detail first. I mean, it's very difficult for us to put anything to the members based on a press release from the FAI last night. So if there's anything that if the FAI put the plan in front of exactly how it's going to work, the ins and outs of it, I think we can then discuss with the relevant people within our organisation, the management committee and the players, to discuss it more. But at the moment, it's very difficult to do that when you don't have any detail by a press release from the FAI last night.
Yeah, I think, to be fair, what Stephen McGuinness is saying there is, I don't want to go to my members and ask them to stump up 150k. I think that's the short story. I just don't understand why people can't get in a room, and like, one side of the debate is going, I'm not even going to sit in the room with you. I'm going to send this other guy to do that. Just like square off 2 hours of your time and go and have the conversation.
You hear someone out.
Try and, even if, like, that's the key to. I just don't actually quite understand it. I don't quite understand why you wouldn't just sit in a room and go, okay, this guy is tasked to do that, but we've reached an impasse by all of our doings, and so let's all sit in a room and solve it, rather than he said, she said, over the public airways.
Yeah.
I mean, as much as we all love that.
Yeah, like when McGuinness was on with us yesterday morning, he said he hasn't met with John Delaney in a professional capacity in 2 years, and he was saying it there as well.
Yeah.
But that doesn't really need any conversation around that to kind of hammer home.
Presented without comment.
Presented without comment, I think, is what I want to say there.
OTBAM is live with Screwfix.ie, championing the trade with a choice of over 20,000 quality trade products. It's almost it, not quite it. A couple of interesting stories to bring your way. We've got 2 updates from Craig Breen this morning over at the Rally of Finland. It's the first day proper. They've been having all the little Mickey Mouse stuff that happens. I think it's
the Pro-Am and stuff.
Correct terminology, the Pro-Am. We're really extending out the golf analogies on the show this morning. Today is kind of the day that it begins proper. He's got a good, in case you missed it, he's got a good track record at the Rally of Finland. So he tweeted, 30 minutes ago, however, disaster on stage 2 of the Rally of Finland. We clipped a rock and picked up a puncture, dropping over 40 seconds. Sad crying face. After our disastrous stage 2, we claimed the second fastest time in stage 3 of the rally, showing our true pace. So that's it. It's a pretty tough track. They are back on track though. You can follow him over at Craig_Breen to keep up to date. He's been sending back exclusive diaries just for you, our off the ball viewership from his rallies. Here's a snippet of what that Rally of Finland is like.
Hi everybody, greetings from Finland. We've just started the rally tonight with a super special inside in the heart of Jyväskylä, so it's been a good day. I think we're 6th or 7th overall tonight after the first little super special, but more importantly with the shakedown today, and that went really well. We were second fastest and among the fastest crews for the whole shakedown, so we're happy with that. That gives us a more clear view how the weekend should pan out if all things go well. So we're looking forward to getting stuck into the real rally tomorrow. 3 big days ahead of us. Finland is the most challenging rally of the year, the fastest rally of the year, known for its jumps and high-speed roads. So we're looking forward to it. A lot of Irish people here, which is great. They're great for the support, and can't wait to get the weekend started.
That's Craig Breen. You're going to be hearing much more from him as well over the next while. He had sent us a diary from Sicily as well a couple of months back, and I think we're going to be hearing from him post-rally as well on Monday. So stay tuned for all of that good stuff. A couple of quick stories before we leave you. Rob Heffernan, World Championship gold medal winner, of course, medal as well at London 2012, and generally one of the most successful Irish sports stories of all time, really. It has to be said, for the longevity, consistency, success in a sport that's a bit of a weird sport, but nevertheless
a weird
has
sport.
retired. It is a bit weird, isn't it?
What's weird about it?
Like, it's fast walking.
Yes.
That presented without comment is the phrase of the day.
Sprinting is fast
but at least you're trying to go as fast as you possibly can, but walking you're trying to go as fast as you can while still walking.
Yes.
At least with sprinting it's like, I'm leaving it all out there.
It's like slagging off soccer, because it's like trying to kick the ball in the net and you can't even use your hands to drop it onto your foot.
No, that is a totally irrelevant and nonsensical comparison. Like, no.
It's like describing rugby and saying you're trying to go forward and you can't even throw the ball forward. Like, walking is the thing you do when you're trying to do it as fast as you possibly can.
Look, I'm not saying there isn't a skill. You're trying to bend my point into me suggesting that it's not skillful and doesn't require unbelievable levels of fitness and all of that sort of skill set, all of that sort of stuff. I'm just saying it is a bit weird. In your opinion? Well, I can only present my own opinion on. Well, I'm starting to think your opinion is a bit weird itself. You're only starting to think that now? Well, it's been a long 3 weeks without your company here on Friday morning, Adrian. Me compared to McIntyre should be the voice of absolute sanity. Luke Shaw is across a lot of the sports pages today. Manchester United are on tour in, I think, Detroit. Yeah, well, Chris Wheeler here in the Irish Daily Mail says Los Angeles, so they might have moved on to Detroit for their next game in a couple of days. Somewhere, yeah. So the headline here in the Irish Daily Mail is, people say I'm fat, but I've got a body like Wayne Rooney and I am in great shape now. So he was in Dubai, obviously. It's his second trip there this summer, because he was there earlier in the summer with his girlfriends, and while he was there, he got a text message. With his girlfriends? Girlfriend, singular. Well, singular is all that's stated here anyway. And he gets a text out of the blue from José Mourinho, but he didn't want to seem too eager, he says. But he accidentally opened the message, notifying his manager had seen it straight away. So José got the old 2 blue ticks on WhatsApp. F it, he says. I've just opened it and I must look so weird now, he said to his girlfriend. But it was fine. I left it a little bit to reply because I didn't want to seem too eager. It was a breath of fresh air when he texted me. I wasn't expecting him. I spoke to him and it was really positive. It made me feel confident about the upcoming season, and that's why I'm working harder than ever, because I want to prove to him that I can be here. And he does look in a lot better shape. What did he text him? It doesn't actually say. Right. So I do wonder what he did text. Maybe Luke Shaw appearing too eager might not be the worst thing in the world, given the dynamic relationship between the two of them.
Maybe Luke Shaw being aloof in WhatsApp groups is the reason why José Mourinho hates him. He says, people can say I'm fat, but I know my own body. I always look big because I'm bigger built. You could say a Wayne Rooney type of body. I worked hard, and not just for them, the crickets. So he talks about the extra work he needed to do when he went to Manchester United, saying he didn't realise how big a step up it was. It wasn't the eating, it was the work I was doing. I didn't realise I needed to push a bit more. My eating has changed now. What I drink has changed. Not alcohol, but in terms of fizzy drinks. I have a treat once a week, not as in stuff like fast food, one fizzy drink or something. My sleep as well. Sleep is a very important thing for me at the moment because it helps with the way your body weight changes. So sleeping more and drinking less fizzy drinks seems to be the way for Luke Shaw to cut down, to become a bit leaner.
He looks lean.
He does. He also goes into a bit more detail about what actually happened last year. Of course, you remember that FA Cup match with Brighton in March. So Shaw was taken off at half-time of that game, scapegoated, I think, for that performance. So 2 days after the game, I hadn't spoken to him since, and I was very upset. We were training, and he spoke with me. He just said, it's frustrating to see you like this when I know that you can do this. It's horrible at times because people only see those things, he says, in public. That's fine because I'm a grown man and I can take stuff like that. I'm used to it. But no one sees the stuff inside the training ground apart from me. He says these things because he knows I can do it. He knows I can be a top player. He knows I can play for Manchester United. And that was one of the texts he sent me in the off-season. I know what you can do. You can be the best, but you've just got to work on a couple of things. So it seems that it might be a rosy enough season for Luke Shaw. He also talks about the disappointment of watching the World Cup from afar. Of course, he was in Brazil for the last World Cup and didn't make it this time. So
it is bizarre that a 23-year-old defender, English defender, playing at one of the top clubs in the country can't make the England squad. You know, when a Leicester City defender is starting all the games, it's definitely bizarre. It doesn't reflect amazingly on, I'm sure that's part of José Mourinho's ego as well, that, well, I've got this guy here, why is he not in the squad? It doesn't reflect amazingly on the club.
It doesn't reflect amazingly on José Mourinho's media tactics either, because it clearly hasn't had a huge positive impact on Luke Shaw. It's actually had a negative one, and the thing that is having the positive impact on him is José Mourinho giving him those encouraging texts in the summer. It's like, right, I've actually got to work hard now. There's still a window of opening here. That's the view I get of Shaw's character.
But you're assuming that the comments that Mourinho made publicly, you're saying that they were made by way of trying to motivate him.
Yeah, and they failed.
Might have been just made out of
anger.
I've had enough of this guy. He's no longer part of my plans, and I don't care what I say about him publicly.
So why would he send the text then?
Maybe he changed his mind.
But he changed his mind in the training ground as well. I mean, like, if you're going to be that unsure of your own opinion, then don't say the bloody thing on whatever national television.
It's Mourinho.
That's
volatile character.
Exactly, and that's the problem with Mourinho.
Because we always assume that stuff, like, the same point applies to any manager you've ever heard. Like, at a certain point you go, well, everything this manager does, they're doing it deliberately, and I can't quite figure the reason why they might do that, but there must be some sort of grand plan. And actually, the more you hear, the more you think,
there is no grand plan.
Frequently.
Yeah. Like, I would say that the lesson from José Mourinho today is just don't say what you're thinking. Just become boring in press conferences, although he is kind of getting dull, isn't he?
He's dull for different reasons altogether. Conor McGregor, finally, before we wrap, has been wrapped on the knuckles. He hasn't been treated like the celebrity that he is, I think was the words from his solicitor on the steps of the court after this yesterday, after his flinging the... what was it described? I mean, it was a trolley of some
hand
sort.
truck.
A hand truck, which is a... What's a hand truck?
Dolly.
A dolly. Like a...
forklift,
not a forklift.
No, the hand
trolley.
Well, hand trolley, hand truck, dolly, whatever you want.
Hand truck makes it sound like it's one of those forked, sort of hydraulic pumped things that'd be particularly difficult to pick up, but no, it's just one of those.
Or a hand truck makes it sound like it's a hand truck, which is the thing where the metal frame, you push it, it's got two wheels, and you can put boxes on it.
UPC would use them. That's the sort of... Not UPS. Movable companies. Yeah.
UPS, DHL,
anyway,
well, you name it, Adrian.
He flung it at a bus and was before the court for his final time yesterday, and the judge ruled that 5 days of community service was all that he and
Cian Cowley
deserved off the back of it. His lawyer said, thanks, Judge, you just treated him like a regular Joe, not like the celebrity that he is. So, I mean, I'm surprised that McGregor wasn't irate about that on the steps of the court, saying that, you know, I'm not a regular Joe, Judge.
Yeah.
Put me down.
I've greatly enjoyed some of the coverage around this. Like Brian O'Donovan from RT's been on the case, and it's always interesting to get the 6-1 view of the Conor McGregor circus because there's a certain sobriety to RT's coverage around this and a very straight-laced nature. And of course, a couple of weeks ago, I mentioned it on the show where in the initial hearing in Brooklyn, where O'Donovan tweets saying Conor McGregor fans out in force to support their man, and there was a picture of a guy holding up a cardboard sign saying "You'll do nothing to my boy McGregor is still the GOAT" and all that sort of stuff. And it turned out that was actually just a publicity stunt from Barstool Sports, and they were unaware from it. And yesterday, in fairness, it was a good question, but it was kind of a question that didn't really represent what the UFC might actually be thinking. And O'Donovan asked Audie Attar afterwards, so will the UFC take any disciplinary action on Conor? Obviously under the presumption that the UFC operates like any other.
Did he grin like did he go sort of this massive grin on his face?
In fairness, he batted it back straight laced. He was like, well, we'll have to see what the UFC do.
I'd say they chuckled about that.
Spoiler alert, the UFC will do sweet F all.
I'd say they chuckled about that over their whatever they were having, Cristal.
Oh yeah,
last night.
Chuckling over the Cristal because that's what rich people do. They watch videos of Irish media interviewing
Well, no,
people.
he was actually being interviewed. So
just like Audie Attar in a Brooklyn nightclub's like, what do I want to watch? Some 6-1.
Floyd's a Brooklyn on. It's the place to be, I understand.
Finally, one last thing. Have you seen the Adidas shoot with the Irish rugby team?
No.
Let's have a look at it now. No, it's pictures. I'm not sure.
Well, this has got off to an overwhelming start.
I'm not sure what Adidas were going for, but they managed to make it seem like the player's new boot has a picture of their recently deceased pet on it.
That is a good call.
That's yeah.
They're going for moodiness, right? Like it was like, ooh, moody. Look at this boot.
It's almost sensual, and you're at one with the boot.
Really? Give us another look at that close up at Tyke Furlong's head. Can we sensual? I'm not going with sensual.
I'm going for what they were aiming for.
I'm going to get us out of this.
Go for it.
Congratulations to Sean Martin, who's heading to Croke Park. We did have one tweet I saw saying, "I've never been to a hurling game, give me the tickets." I'm not sure whether that totally justified the comment or just totally ruled them out. But needless to say, it wasn't the person who won the tickets in the end. So Sean Martin heading to Croke Park on Sunday to watch the All-Ireland hurling semi-final. Galway against Dublin in the Electric Ireland Minor All-Ireland Championships. And I'm sure he'll probably stick around as well for that Galway there again that we've been previewing as well from 5 o'clock. Don't forget that we've no hurling show today. So I know your lunchtime is sort of semi-ruined by that, but you can watch back Jamie Wall. He did some good stuff in terms of the previews of the two hurling semi-finals this weekend. And we don't have a hurling show today because it's going to be live from Croke Park on Sunday. Shane Stapleton in the company of Dan Shanahan, Tommy Welch and Paddy Marr as well to reflect on Saturday's semi-final and look ahead to Sunday's game. Tonight on News Talk from 7 o'clock, it's going to be Friday Night Racing in association with the HRI, and Desi Scahill, the just retired on-course racing commentator, is going to be joining Johnny in studio for all of that. And we're going to have more hurling conversation as well. But for myself and Eoin, for the minute, good morning.
What?